Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of UVZ and Friends. Tonight, we've got on the panel Andy Bond, Peter from Straight Gut Motorcycles, and obviously myself, UVZ. Tonight, we are talking about Indian motorcycles and specifically the range. And guys, thank you very much for joining us on the show tonight. Welcome, and I hope you enjoy it.
Thank you.
Yeah, cool.
So, just for the viewers out there, myself and Andy are currently on Indian motorcycles, and Peter is on a BMW and a Thruxton R, the Triumph, right?
Yeah, that's it.
And so we're trying to get as many different views on the bikes, and just to have a little bit of a chat about the bikes and explore the range and see what's unique about each of them. So what we'll do is I'll just show you in a second here is we're going to go through the range. We've got the FTR, we've got the Scout, we've got the well, as they call it, the Cruiser, but the Springfield versions. We've got the Bagger, which really is the Chieftains, the Challenger, and then the Roadmaster, which is the touring version. So first of all, starting with the FTR. Actually, let's take a step back. Just from the outset, guys, what do you think about the range of motorcycles out there at the moment? They've got sort of 6 varieties as I was going through. And then I've got some sub variants underneath that. Do you think that's enough, or is it too many?
I think it's definitely enough.
Do you think that? And again, I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, but there's talks about sort of different adventure versions coming. Any thoughts on that?
I don't know about it actually. So
no, either. I can't comment on it because.
Yeah.
Sorry, Peter. I'm interrupting you. Go on.
Yeah, it's all right. Yeah. So what are they? What are they planning to bring out then?
Well, listen, I can't say because I don't know. It's that there's rumors out there that there's perhaps an adventure style bike coming, which, to be honest, is something that I'm quite excited about. Now, being totally straight up, I probably wouldn't have been honest. Wouldn't have been excited about the potential of something had it not been for the FTR.
Yeah.
Because, in my opinion, I think it's going to be a variety or variation of the FTR. And having spent a bit of time on this bike, I think it has the potential for being something really special. And it's not something I expected, to be honest. The first time I actually rode the FTR, I was extremely surprised. I was doing some stuff down at More Speed and did a few test rides, and I really got on with the bike. I expected it to obviously being quite a big car, not to fit me very well. But it really suited me, and it was a really nippy bike, which is something that I like. Andy, have you spent any time on the FTR?
No, I haven't been any other Indian apart from my Scout.
That's it.
Yeah.
Pete, I can't remember. Did you ride the FTR, or did you?
No, I rode the FTR. I rode both types actually. Because one's got the TFT screen, isn't it? So it's at the S. So yeah, the FTR 1200S and the standard, and they are it's just an unbelievable bike. It took a bit of time for me to get used to. It's a bit of an unusual riding position in regards to the pegs being slightly further back than what I'm used to. But yeah, it's an unbelievable bike. It's got plenty of power. And yeah, it gets up the road without any issues at all.
Yeah, I think that's one of the first things that struck me is I expected it to be to feel a lot more like a bit of a race bike,
Yeah.
and it actually wasn't in the end. And I think if you look at the picture, if you just look at the posture over there, you've got a really good seated position, so it's actually really comfortable. What I found is that just with your leg position down here, you feel slightly perched, which gives you that sort of get up and go kind of feeling. So it gives you that racy feel, but at the same time, it's really a good seated position, which takes a lot of the pressure off your hands, so you don't get the same issues that you do with some of the other bikes. And I really like that. Now, have you guys had any bad things about the FTR?
Oh, no, I haven't. No, I haven't. I've heard nothing but glowing reviews about it.
No, me neither.
I mean, I can remember the first time, I think it was the Cornwall Motorfest, where I met Andy. That's the first time that I actually saw it in the flesh.
Yeah.
And and then obviously when we went down to More Speed that time, and we had the opportunity to take it out for a test ride. It was a privilege. I mean, I didn't expect to like it as much as I did, to tell the truth.
Now, I've got a few things that I wanted to talk about. First of all, the standard version. Now, I like the whole range, and I find that it's a range that really meets quite a few needs. The only problem that I have with the FTR range in total are the tires on the standard version, and it's not because they are terrible tires. I find it's more because the tires are more meant for off-road conditions than they are for road. So for me, I suppose my comment is that for me that's a terrible road tire. And the first thing that I would do, which I do want, so I actually want to get an FDR, is to change the tires. But that being said, I probably would end up going with the race replica version for a few reasons. One, because of the styling, the bits and pieces that they added, and so sorry, I was just getting distracted with something else. So it's the race version, and it's the styling and the exhaust and everything, as well as the fact that I actually really like the heads-up display that it comes with. Now, it's not necessary, but I think it makes the ride quite convenient. Now, in terms of the price range, you've got the FTR starting at, call it, just under 12,000, and the race replica version at 14,000. But if you consider for what's it, call it £1,200, there's actually quite a big difference in the specification. You actually get a lot for it. Now, the main bits, as you can see from the end here, is the Ride Command touchscreen system. And it's also got, and this is, I think, a big part, is the fully adjustable front and rear suspension, along with the rider modes. But I think the front and rear suspension really allows you to work in a good few, gives you a lot of flexibility, which you otherwise may not have. Any thoughts on that, guys?
Oh yeah, no. I mean, obviously, having just recently got the Triumph, I mean, that's got full adjustable suspension all round on it, and even though I haven't played with it yet, the plan is I will do at some point. So having that benefit from the standard bike, then you've got more options to set the bike up to how you feel and how you ride, which means you get more out of the bike. So yeah, I think that's it's definitely worth it. And what would you say the price difference was? About two grand?
1,200. No, it's £1,200.
£1,200. I mean, if you
actually, I lie to you. My maths has gone worse. It's lockdown maths. It's £2,200.
Yeah. £2,200. So I mean, you
The
look.
beer's already kicked in.
You got to look at it as in, if you were to buy the standard one and you wanted to put everything on, I think it would cost a lot more. And it just looks better. The color scheme, the white on the tank, it just looks a lot better.
Yeah.
And what tires does it come with on the race replica? Are they road tires, or are they still the knobbly ones?
They're still the knobbly ones. So like I say, what I would do is I would put a really good set of road tires, because I've ridden one that's got the road tires on them, and it's made a massive difference, to the point where I was really throwing the bike around like it was a sports bike, and I didn't expect to be able to do that.
Cool.
Okay, so
I don't know whether you guys can hear me.
I can hear you fine. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we
okay.
can.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to cut down on the noise in between thing. That's all. Scout. Let's move on to the Scout. Now, the Scout obviously is the main bike that got Indian started off, and it's the same bike that Bert Monroe kicked off with, and I think it's a really a good-looking bike. They've retained some of the classic styling, but also brought it into the 21st century, and they've got quite a few bikes or versions in the range. But I think for me, the first thing that really stands out is the fact that none of the bikes, if I had the stock version, is the way that I would want the bike. And for me, I think that this is a great thing, because it gives you sort of a blank canvas that you can use to actually the bike to way it was. And it, if you look at bikes in a bit of the spiritual way, sort of the way that Bert Monroe had it, he took a bike and he worked on it and he customized it and he did all the bits and pieces and he made it his own. And I think for me, that's the great thing about the Indian bike is it's your own journey and how you feel about the bike. Now, Andy, you've got the Scout. Which Scout have you got?
I've got the Scout, the 6-speed.
Yeah. So have you got the Scout Bobber, or so have you got the 1200 motor, or have you got the 900 motor?
I've got the 1133 motor.
Okay, so you've got.
When it came out the factory, it was at 100 brake horsepower.
Yeah.
But with a few modifications, I've got it up to 128 brake horsepower.
Oh, so you've done some extra bits.
Yeah, not because I want to go faster, but it's because the tuned and made to run so weak for the emissions over in America. It jerks a lot in when you're coming down the gears, and that's got rid of all that now. So
just a quick one from my side: is it a liquid cooled or an air cooled motor?
It's liquid.
Liquid cooled. So that obviously is the first step in the emissions reduction. So next year when the change comes in, the Scout won't be affected from what you're saying then, because it's probably already it's already now. I think for me, the price points here is very, very close. Now, as I understand it, essentially, you've got 6 bikes, but you've got really it's essentially the same bike with the only variation where the 60 is the 61 cubic inch motor, whereas which is the 900cc, I believe, as opposed to the standard Scouts, which is or the Bobber, that's a 1200 motor. And I've not ridden the Scout 60, but I have ridden the standard Scouts or the Scout Bobber on a few occasions, and if I was going to buy one, I would buy that. But I could totally see how the Scout 60 for some call it maybe some of the lady riders or some of the more inexperienced riders might start on something a little bit smaller just to get things going. But for me, it's definitely an iconic bike. Now, you've obviously done a few things on your bike, Andy. If you had money, no objects availability to make a change to your bike, what would that be?
I'd like some quieter exhausts on mine. Mine are quite loud. And,
have you got the stage one?
Well, it's not been staged. No, I put a power commander on it, a K&M filter, and some slash pipes, and it was dynoed at 128 at the back wheel.
Yeah.
And it moves. Apart from that, I've got 10-inch apes on it, mainly for doing long distances. It's a lot more comfortable. I've had the seat repadded because it wasn't the most comfiest seat in the world. And I've made my own back seat for it, which was a Harley seat. I've had it recovered in tan to match the rest of the tan bike. But yeah, it fulfills all my needs.
Yeah. Now the interesting thing here is I think they've been very reasonable with the pricing, and it shows. You know, you've got a hell of a lot of bike for just over 10,000, and it's not many bikes that you can buy for anywhere near that money these days.
No. Well, I actually part exchanged my Fat Boy for this. And this is a far better bike than any Harley I've ever had. And I've had quite a few.
What Harleys have you ridden?
I've ridden quite a few. I had a Glide, an ultra classic Glide first. Then I had a Road King. Then I had a Fat Boy, and I had a sports project in between that. And I was riding Harleys for about 20 years. Been all over Europe, Russia, everywhere on a Harley. But these are far more reliable. And they run like a little bird, and you can do a lot to them.
So was that your main reason why you swapped from Harley over to Indian then, was it?
Well, the main reason was the Fat Boy was getting too heavy for me.
Right.
It was if I ever dropped it, I could never pick it up. Where this one has fallen over in my garage when I was fitting some Icon shocks on the back, and I could pick it up quite easily. So that's basically. You can throw it around. I've got some Avon Cobra tires on it.
Yeah, the Cobra Chromes.
Throw it around corners. No Cobras, and you can throw it around corners like an old British bike. You know, it's like a Dominator.
Is it just a standard Cobra or not the Cobra Chrome?
No, it's just a standard Cobra.
Okay, I've got the Cobra Chromes on my bike, which is
they got a bit of a bad name at the moment with the one thing and another.
Which one?
I suppose they'll fix it. The Chrome.
Really?
There's a recall on some of them. Yeah.
Well, I don't know about that. So, I mean, I've got them on my bike, and I don't think there's many people on an Indian that rides it anywhere near what I do, especially hard-wise. I've just the one from. I've got a question from Sunny B, saying, guys, when you're doing the NHS bike ride, and so basically, just for everyone to let everyone know, we set up a ride of respect or remembrance for people that we've lost during the COVID-19 outbreak, as well as to pay respects and thank you to the NHS, as well as all the frontline key workers. And so we haven't got a date set for that yet. Basically, we'll try and do that as soon as is possible. Although my thoughts at the moment is probably that we're going to do it on the same day that the lockdown started next year. We might do an interim ride towards the end of the year just to get something going when it's possible. But I think I would like to have an annual event. Now I can't remember the exact day of the lockdown started, but it's sort of around the mid-March time. I think it might around the 20th or something. But I'll let everyone know. There is a Facebook group called the London and Home County.
Sean, you're actually breaking up quite badly there. I'm only getting every other word.
Yeah, can you hear me, Pete?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
You're breaking up as well, Peter.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's your internet connection or mine. Yeah, we'll let everyone know as much detail as we can if you can hear us. If not, sorry about that. It's a bit of an internet is difficult. But yeah, we'll give you guys as much information as possible. Then we've got Grumpy Old Barker saying he rode a Scout 60 for 3 years. Great bike, plenty of power, not too heavy. Added a few bits with splash pipes in a different Avon Cobra tires, top bike. Yeah, I think that's pretty much what everyone is saying. And I've got Matthew Norwell as well. He's saying Avon anytime. So it really is a good tire, I suppose. Sometimes with everything, and it works. It works really, really well. So I would definitely. There's saying that I would have the Avon Cobra Chrome any day over and above a lot of tires. But there is one tire that I've come across fairly recently, which I definitely want to give a try. Now, I don't know much about it, so I'm not going to say it's an awesome tire. I've ridden on the bike a little bit, but it's the Metzler tires that comes along with the Challenger. It's the performance Metzler tires, and from what I've seen at the moment, those are some awesome tires. So I'll definitely be trying that out as soon as possible. Thanks, Ozarks. Really appreciate your support, mate. You're a brilliant guy. Yeah. So let's move on to, unless there's anything anybody wants to add on the Scout range.
No, I'm all right. I need to go and ride one.
Yeah, you've just
cool.
had a few chances. Okay. All right, let's move on to the Cruiser. Now, we probably won't spend a huge amount of time on this. Hopefully, my mate Paul Gibbs will forgive me for not spending too much time on this, purely because there's a range of these bikes that are quite very close in style. And I suppose it just depends whether or not you like a full fairing bike, or if you like something that's a little bit more wind in your face. Actually, that's a good question, Andy. Do you have a fairing on your bike, or do you have it just open?
Who, me?
Yes.
Yeah, I've got a screen on it.
Yeah, you've got a screen. Okay.
Yeah.
So for me, if I do any kind of mileage, then I would definitely put a screen on it. And I know there's a lot of people who just prefer the naked bike. And to be honest, I do like it. But I always think that if you've got a screen, I call it my bug catcher. I would rather eat. I'd rather eat fewer bugs than more. But definitely, I mean, I know that Paul, again, because I haven't spent a huge amount of time on the. Sorry, it's a bit of a mouse problem. I haven't spent a huge amount of time on the Springfield. Let me just open this up. See, that is a good looking bike.
It is. Yeah, I do like like that.
The thing is, right, and again, this is that it's always the mix, that very, very close call between, which bike do you go for the money? And, when we move on to the next bit, you'll see what I'm saying. Now, that's an absolutely gorgeous bike. Nobody can say that it's not. It might not be to your style, etc. And I get that. You might be a out-and-out Harley guy and you like your Harley. Well, that's fine. But the point is that as a bike, that is the classic look. It's got the classic fenders on it, and it's got the lit up Indian on the front, which is great. Yeah, we go. Grumpy agrees with us. Vintage is a great bike to look at and to ride. Now, I totally agree with that. Now, the only thing that I would say is this: as much as I like this bike, anything distance-wise, I would have a different bike. And it's not because one bike's better than the others. It's just that, in my opinion, one bike is better suited to touring than the others. But definitely, for me, I think it's $2,000. Let me just have a look there. Let's just have a look at the bagger range. Here we go. So this is the Chieftain range. So there we go. So you've got the side-by-side comparison there. So you're talking about £1,000, less than £1,000, to get a bike, in my opinion, with a lot more technology, with a sat nav and all of that, and it gives you definitely a more options. It doesn't mean that one bike is better than the others. It's just, for me, I think it's far better. Now, you rode the Roadmaster, which is essentially the same. Have you ridden the Chieftain, Peter?
No, only the Roadmaster. That's the only one I took out. Yeah, and once I got used to it, obviously going from my BMW, which is a sit-up sort of bike. It's just a sports tourer, to obviously having my legs out in front of me. Once I got used to that, it was a good bike, and you can chuck them about if you want to.
Yeah.
I can quite easily see myself touring across the country and across Europe in one of them, but it's just slightly out of my price range.
Yeah, look, it's definitely a lot of money. So there's my bike there. I've got the Chieftain Classic, and so I don't know if I prefer one above the other. They're just different. What I do like, though, is that the Chieftain Limited, or the Chieftain Dark Horse, whichever you call it, it actually now comes in a 116 version, which is quite good. And the main reason why I like that is because what do you call it? I always feel like the bike needs a little bit of extra power. I find that the 111 cubic inch motor, although it's like a 1800 cc motor, always lacks a bit of power. And
I know what you mean. When I took it out for the road test, again coming off the BMW onto that, I did find that I was getting up in the higher rev range rather quickly, and having to change gear all the time. So it's just like it just needs a little bit more, maybe a bit more torque.
Yeah.
Just to get you down the road a bit quicker. But I know exactly what you mean in regards to you get going and then all of a sudden you're running out of revs and you got to look it up another gear.
Yeah, it always feels like you need that one little bit extra. But for me, I've done a few bits on mine, and I don't quite have that. But I always like to have that extra power. I mean, Andy, have you had any feedback in terms of the Chieftains and that kind of in that regard, the power or not?
No, I've never ridden one. I don't know anybody that's got one. I don't really follow them, to be honest with you. I'm more a rider than somebody who's interested in all of the bikes. I do know my friend Keith. He's just bought a Challenger. It got delivered as we got locked down. So he's not ridden that yet either. So I don't know.
Yeah, there's a few people that's just taken delivery of the Challenger. But for me, there's definitely. I mean, this is my favorite bike in the range at the moment. Although I would like to own a Challenger, we'll get onto that next. But certainly, just from a price point, I think this is where I think you get into the top limit of what you should be spending on a bike, unless you've got some serious money, and money is no object. But for me, I think this is at the sort of level where you can pretty much do anything. Anyway, let's move on to the next bike, which is the Challenger, and my personal favorite. Now, this bike here is the front runner to what I think is a lot of changes that's coming with within the range, and the main reason for that is the emissions. So next year, obviously, the emissions are changing over. So the whatever the sort of emission threshold is, and that's why I believe that they brought this liquid cooled motor out. So I think at some point, I don't know when, but I do think at some point that you'll see some changes with regards to the other bikes in the range, like the Chieftains, etc., where you'll see some changes. Now, this bike is probably what I would consider at the top end of what I would ever spend on a bike. To spend more than that on a bike for me is not possible. Let's put it that way. But certainly, having ridden the bike, I think this is an amazing bike. The one thing I will say is that I think that the color scheme that you choose on this bike is all important. I think more so than a lot of other bikes.
So that's the colour.
This one. Yeah. So Mac, a friend of ours, Mac McDonald, he's actually the first guy in the country to pick up a Challenger in the UK. And this was his color that he bought. He actually literally got his bike before any of the dealers even had their demo models, which really upset a few people. Let's be nice.
I bet it did.
Yeah. So for me, there's only one color, and it's very easy, and that's the black. Now, the one thing that I have seen, and this is what Joe had that was on the show last week, is the so he basically they took a Dark Horse, this black matte version, and took off all the panniers and all of the external bits like this, and changed it. Sorry, let me just go back and changed it with the ruby metallic bits on the outside. So you've got all this chrome is gone. So you've got all of that black with a nice red on the outside. Now I think that works quite well. But obviously, this is something that obviously is to the individual taste. And like I said, it's a bike that sort of grows on you slowly but surely. This is obviously in a slightly different area because it's more in what they call the performance bagger section. And honestly, if you've not ridden one, you definitely want to go try one when the lockdown's finished, because it is an absolutely amazing piece of equipment, and it delivers something that not a lot of other bikes can deliver, particularly in the power range. It is absolutely stunning. I mean, Pete, you saw you were with me when we did the test ride, and you just saw it. I mean, I couldn't help myself.
Yeah, you were drawing all over it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, no, it's definitely it's definitely a stunning bike. Definitely something for the future. Now, this has obviously got a whole lot of bits and pieces. So it's got the radially mounted Brembo brakes on the front. It's got the upside down forks. It's got a fixed fairing to the frame, which means it helps you, with wind resistance. It's got a comfy seat, which is really helps with your comfort and your riding position. Definitely a good bike. The only thing for me that I don't like about this bike, and it's not that it's something that can't be fixed. I just think that it's a little bit quiet, and it's obviously because of the emissions. There we go. Lockdown was the 23rd of March, so that's when I'll be looking to to do the NHS ride. Yeah, so this is Mark, a mate of mine from up north. He's saying that the Challenger is one of the bikes that he wants to ride. And I think if you've been on a sports bike, because I think, Mark, you were on a sports bike before you went over to Harley, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is the kind of thing that, any sort of sports bike conversion purist would definitely enjoy, because it still gives you that little bit of a feel. Here we go. He says air filter and pipes make it loud, as well as tuning on the engine. Yeah, so that's what I would do. If I had to buy one of these bikes, the first thing I do is stage ones, decats, put a filter on, and I think you'll be happy with that. It definitely is a beast of a bike. I mean, I've done that to my bike, and it's made the world of difference. Absolute champion bike. And then we'll move on to the last bike in the range. Now, if Mr. Jeff Rutland is listening, this is his bike. So they've got three bikes in the range. They've got the Roadmaster Dark Horse, and the Roadmaster Elite. And really the difference between, there's a few things between this bike and the Chieftain that is a difference. So first of all, you've got the passenger compartment and the storage on the back. That's the main difference. But then it comes with all sorts of technological changes as well. This comfortable seat here is a heated seat, where it's not on the Chieftain. You'll have to add that extra. It's also got the shielding on the side here. It's got some slightly different electronics and part, but for the most of it, the ride command system is essentially identical. And that's for what I would say is more like the classic Roadmaster. So they kept that in the design of the Chieftain Classic, and then they brought out the Roadmaster Dark Horse, which really is now a follow-on from the new Chief that they've released, which is more of a modern classic look. Now, funny enough, I don't know if this version works as well as it does on the Chief. I still prefer this classic type of look versus on the Roadmaster, but not necessarily the same on the other one. Now, the entry level on this bike is 26,000. Now, the funny thing is, I actually tried to add this, look at adding this rear piece onto my bike, and I was shocked at the cost of this. Anyone want to guess how much that rear box is to add it onto a Chieftain?
I know roughly.
1,500 quid.
And the rest, $4,000 in it.
No, that's just for the basic bits. The total is about 6-7 grand.
Wow.
So
to buy another bike for that.
When I heard that, I went, no thanks. I can do without it. But it's a good bike, and like I say, it's Matthew has just put some initials on the bottom. But it's definitely look. It's a bike that works, and I think it's a bike that is essential if you are a couple doing long trips, because it depends on why you buy your bike. Yeah. I think it, particularly for the pillion, that Roadmaster seat is hugely comfortable, whereas on the other bikes not so much. It's really just like a bit of an afterthought that's been splashed on there. Now there's a few people reacting to whoa, there's my screen gone blank. I'm not sure if anybody can see anything. We've got out of that. So anybody want to guess? On my bike, on the inside of the fairing, there's a little, it's a little, just like a cover that goes on the inside of the bike where some of the lights are, the lights on the inside. You've seen that. And it literally is, I don't know.
Just a plastic cover.
Call it 30 by 30 plastic cover. And I lost one, and then I lost the other one. So I called up and I said, listen, get me some of these things. I need them on my bike. So that was it. So I didn't say anything else. The next thing they said, no, it's here. Come and collect it. I went to go and collect it. Guess how much it was? It's just a cover.
Haven't a
Nothing.
clue.
£130.
Yeah.
They only had the one.
Copying Harley Davidson.
So they only had the one. So they said, "Do you want me to get the other one?" I said, "No, thanks. I'll get some tape and I'll put it over." so needless
Gaffer tape fixes anything.
Yeah. So needless to say, what I've done is that I've actually taped the existing one that I've got. I've actually taped it onto the bike so it doesn't come off.
Yeah, you don't want to lose that at that price.
So yeah, there's certain things. There's certain things that can cost you a bit of money, but it just depends on, like I say, why you use the bike. And for me, I think if you let me just share the screen again just to bring that up. If you are a couple, then I would definitely recommend this bike.
What's the old servicing intervals on these? Are they every 6 or every
Sean,
10?
I'm going to sign off now because I'm not getting much at all of this. I'm only getting every third or fourth word.
Okay, mate. No worries. No worries.
Okay. Cheers.
Okay,
Bye.
cheerio.
Bye.
Cheers, Andy. Bye.
So yeah, sorry guys. So basically, what were we talking about?
The servicing intervals.
Servicing.
Is it 4, 6, 10?
It's every 5,000.
Right.
Now I found that's a little bit short, only because of the distances that I'm doing. So I went through the summer to a point where I was actually every few weeks I was actually at the garage getting my bike serviced, and it ended up costing a lot. But the services aren't that expensive. It's in a sort of 250, 300 pound bracket, depending on what needs to be done. Obviously, my bike is at sort of heading towards the 30,000 mark, and so it's going through some more of the more expensive services, but it's not that expensive to run. I think it's when you start going through tires and everything as well, because I'm having to change my tires 2 or 3 times a year, just because of the sheer mileage. And also what I try and do is I try and get rid of the flat spots on the tires. So if you do long distance, especially if you hit the rain, it becomes a bit, in my opinion anyway, it becomes a little bit sketchy. So I like to
tires are squaring off.
Yeah, exactly. And I found that even now I'm having that same issue, whereas it just doesn't like the corners too much because it's flattened off so much. And I think what happens is the flattening. Is there a big custom market for Indians? Yes, Mark. Actually, there is. I think the thing is though is that because the market for Indian is a fairly new market, it's still growing. But I think every time somebody sees something that's been done custom-wise, people will get into that. And I think it's only a matter of time before it'll be a really big thing. I think in the States, obviously, it's massive because anybody who buys any bike, doesn't matter what it is, they just want to change it. But if in the UK, obviously, it's much less of a thing. But definitely, I think it's a must-have. You've got to have something a little more individual. I don't like riding something that everyone else rides, but that's just my opinion. It doesn't make me right. I just think that it's nice to be an individual.
Yeah.
Even on your bikes, Peter, you've made some adjustments recently, haven't you, on your bikes?
On the Thruxton, yeah. So I've done the it's got a fly-by-wire throttle on it, which is the same housing as the Ducati. Most of the Ducati range and some of the Thruxton range. And what they do is there's a company called Ducati Spacers over in America that do these little spacers. They're really expensive for what they are. They're just little bits of plastic, like Indian refuel plastic thing. But it just takes the initial slop out of it. And I found that it was easier for my style of riding, because I'm so used to the BMW, which has no play in the throttle whatsoever, and that's cable operated. I just found it easier to put them in, and it did what I wanted it to. It took the slop out, and I didn't have any jerkiness or anything like that at low speed. And I've just done the decap pipe on it as well. But again, I've only been able to run it around the block to make sure that it holds together. I haven't taken it out for a long ride, but it's certainly it was a cheaper option for me to do the decap pipe than it was to go and buy a set of fans and hinds for it, or exhaust system for it.
I think a decat is good though on the back. It makes it run a lot cooler as well, and
you got better gas flow. So like you said, it's running cooler. You got better gas flow, so you're getting the gases out a lot quicker. And I mean, if you start putting power commanders and getting it tuned up as well, you probably get a little bit more horsepower out of the engine as well. But
yeah, absolutely.
I think it needs it.
Yeah, I think the same thing with really the entire Indian range. The first thing that I would do, and it doesn't make, like I say, it doesn't make me right, and it's not a criticism. It's just I like the fact that I can get to make it mine. But the first thing that I would do on any bike is stage ones, decats, maybe not a decats on the FTR, but definitely a different exhaust system. And I would then also look at changing the seat, except for the Roadmaster. And the main reason for that is that extra little bit of comfort from a distance traveling perspective. So that for me is are must-dos. The other thing that I would do as well, and I think this is something that the Grumpy Biker was talking about recently, is the actual, let me just see if I can bring in this a little bit. There we go. The screen. So that is the standard screen, and that is the standard screen actually extended. So whilst you're riding, depending on your height, you'll get quite a lot of wind resistance, and just adding that extra extension on the screen takes all of that away, which is what I've done recently. Now, I obviously started making videos and things, I don't know, sort of late last year. And I got to the point where initially I wasn't worried about audio. I was just doing video because I was learning how to do videos, etc. But then obviously I tried to add some audio to that. And I found that suddenly I was actually making really crappy videos because I became so obsessed with trying to get decent audio that I forgot about everything else.
Yeah.
And it was such a problem trying to get rid of the extra wind noise. And then one of my mates, Jeff Rutland, who was on the show before, actually donated his extra tall screen to me. Thank you, Jeff. And I tell you what a revelation that was. Now, I did a video recently where it's just like a COVID-19 updates, and I literally didn't touch the audio one bit, and the audio is perfect. So it really does take away a huge amount of the extra wind noise. The only thing that does do is that extra shielding, especially customized scouts and so store, yeah. The extra bit of shielding actually warms it up behind the bike. So sometimes you get to a point where you actually need to just get a bit of extra airflow, but that's the only drawback. And also, I think if you are a bit shorter, you might have to look through the screen rather than look over the screen. But other than that, I think there's no drawbacks to that at all. Let me just get onto here. Now, I suppose just in terms of the price range, just to go back to that, that's a lot of money for a bike, and you need to be certain that you're going to get a lot of use out of it. But I think if you do, it's money well spent. The only thing that I will say is, wow, that money for the elite is big money. 35,000. Let me just take that comment away in case anybody couldn't see. £35,000 or 35,500 for a bike is big money, and you need to really be certain that you're going to be getting the full use out of it. Now, I would, and I don't really criticize. This is just opinion and talking, but I wouldn't spend that much money on that bike. I know that it's got some extras on it, and if you look carefully, you'll see you've got the different armrests where it doesn't have it there. It's got the extra music on the back, which it doesn't there, and I get that, and I appreciate that. However, as a bike, I would rather buy the classic version of the Roadmaster and spend $3 or $4 getting a decent paint job done, and then you get this anyway. So I wouldn't necessarily go and spend $35,000. That for me is a little bit too much money, and I don't necessarily see the value in it. But I suppose beauty is in the beholder, as they say. So it doesn't, like I say, it doesn't make me right. It just means that's my opinion. I'm not sure if anybody's got any different opinions.
No, so I mean, it's definitely top end money, isn't it? So
yeah,
I mean, what other bikes out there? I know obviously the Archers, the Arch you were discussing last week or the week before. Obviously, we know what sort of money that is. But what other bikes are out there around the $35,000 mark?
Well, there's a few in the market. I'm not sure in the $35,000 mark, but in the sort of 25. You get the gold wings and all of that kind of stuff. But I think in terms of this particular market, because really I think at the moment, and please forgive me if anyone doesn't agree with me, but this competition really is between Harley and Indian.
Yeah,
I don't see anybody thinking, okay, well, let's go compete with the Goldwing or the BMW.
Yeah, it's been like that for years though. It's been there, 1901.
It's not that they're not competitors. It's just that they don't view each other as competitors because they're in a slightly different mark. Because, again, I could be wrong, but the Harley and the Indian is more complete lifestyle bikes, whereas the other bikes tend to be more functional. It's about, engineering, etc. Whereas up until I would say the Challengers come out, that's been far more about engineering. But I think that's because it's a bike that's been built recently from the ground up. Now I think that's the difference between the sort of the Indian and the Harley at the moment is the fact that Indian have just recently sort of stepped up in certain areas, whereas Harley has been around for a long time. So they've had existing technology which they've used for quite a while. And has it given Indian a competitive advantage to start from scratch in a lot of ways? I don't know. But I certainly think that it may have. Purely from the point is, I've spent time around all of the bikes. And I hear a whole bunch of people going, oh no, Indian is awesome, Harley I won't ever go back to. And then I hear the same the other way around. So I just think that it's around all of your experience, because some people experience things in a slightly different way. I've seen on Facebook and stuff, guys that had a brand new bike, a few miles later, bike's on a thing, and it's just been non-stop issues. Whereas other people like myself, I mean, I've never had any issues with my bike. I've had a slight electrical problem which was fixed very, very easily. It was just a fuse which was an issue. Other than that, I've done tons of miles on my bike, no problem. The only thing, like I say, is it just feels to me like I'm servicing my bike every other week. So I wouldn't mind being in a situation where you could have, like, let's say a 10,000 mile service interval, which I think would be far, far better. But
well, that's what I've got on the Thruxton. The Thruxton's every 10,000 miles.
Yeah, I just feel that at the moment, especially with my Chieftain, that 10,000 would be a stretch too far, because I start finding that after sort of 3,000 odd miles, 3,500 miles, you feel like it needs a service. And I'm at that stage now, and I don't know why that is. It's maybe just because I'm, a bit heavy on the bike. It's entirely possible, but it's just the way I'm experiencing it. So let's just do a little bit of a recap on the range. In terms of the FTR, the bike that I would definitely go for. Let me just go back into that.
Yeah, the whole range. I think if I was going to spend my money, it'd be on an FTR.
I would spend my money on the FTR 1200S race replica.
Yeah,
because I've actually seen the race bike at the London show, and that's when Steve Kane had it around the arena, and it is an absolute beast of a bike, absolute beast of a bike. And this might not have the same performance, but I tell you what, if it's based on that, I think that's definitely a way to go.
Yeah.
You agree with that?
Yeah, totally.
In terms of the Scout, now it's got the 6. Now, this is something that actually I probably should have gone through earlier. You've got the 2 different versions. Now, the one is the Bobber, which tends to give you more of the ape style bars, and then you get the standard version, which has got the sort of wider bars. Now, I would suggest, if you are newly changing over to a cruiser style bike, to go for the slightly wider bars. And if you are a existing long-term cruiser rider, then go for the slightly more apes. And the reason for that is because of maneuverability and getting used to the bike. I've actually come across someone fairly recently, who I won't mention just now, but who's had issues when he moved over from sort of cruise. If what's it? No, I wouldn't say race style bikes, but like tour. What do you call it? Like the ZZR 1400 style changeover. So it's a sports bike, but it's still a bit of a sports tourer. And I would say that I would definitely go with a slightly the wider grips for those, just because it gives you a bit more stability, whereas the Apes gives you a lot more. It feels like maneuverability, but it also may feel a little bit unstable. However, if I was going to buy any of these bikes, I would definitely go with the Scout Bobber 20, because I do like the Apes style bars. I would probably put a screen on there as well, unless I was just going to use it for short runs, which I probably would, because I would probably use a different bike if I was going to go touring.
Yeah.
Yourself, Pete?
Yeah.
Same?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't ridden the Scout, so I mean, looking at that, I probably would go with the Bobber 20.
Yeah,
definitely looks like a nicer looking bike. Don't know, it's the lines. It's just the way it flows from the front end, and it just sweeps down. Yeah, I do.
Well,
like
if you talk just purely about the lines, I actually like the Scout Bobber 60, because I like the way the seat is placed. Yeah. So actually, Crazy Horse have done some custom work. I'm actually not sure if they've done it on a Scout 60, but they've done some changes on the fender and everything, and it absolutely looks stunning. It'll be good to get Kev back on the show once the bike is finished with some photos and show everyone. But yeah, it just depends on what you're going to do with the bike, you know.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. So we'll skip the cruiser out because we'll deal with it under the baggers. Now, we've got the Springfield, and we've got the Chieftain Dark Horse, and Chieftain Limited. Now, I've currently got obviously the classic version, which is this. If I was going to choose another bike within this range, I would probably go for the Chieftain Dark Horse in the more classic styling, but with the 116 motor for the extra power, because that is the everything that I need on it. But yeah, that's probably the bike that I would choose in this range. Yourself?
Yeah, no, I quite like the black on black and all that. So yeah, no, that's the one I would go for. Yeah,
just something about the color. I mean, obviously, let me just go into that. So you've got the ruby.
It's got to be black on black.
Yeah, I do quite like this as well, but I think, in my opinion, that it feels like these are short-term colors. You know, you'll buy it, like you'll like it for the summer, but come next summer, you think to yourself, why didn't I just buy a black one?
See when you had it on the grey, it's very similar to the chick. You know, they look identical pretty much, apart from obviously you got the exhaust and that blacked out. So I mean, you want if you're going to buy one of these bikes, you want it to stand out. You don't want it to blend into the other range.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe a bit more, different colours would benefit.
Mm. Well, they've got with the limited. Obviously, they've got. But I wouldn't go with that. I would just stick with that. That for me is plenty bark. Let's just go and then move on to the Challenger. Now, this is Matthew's favorite topic. Matthew's ordered himself a new Challenger, and it's arrived, but he hasn't been able to pick it up yet because of lockdown and everything. So again, color is all important. I before last week, I would have gone for the all black Challenger like that in the Dark Horse range. Okay, we just go into that just to bring that up. So I would have gone for that version, but after spending the time with Joe last week and the changes that he's made, I would relook that a little bit. I'm not saying that I would go away from this, but I might have a look at mixing some of the colors because and hear me out on this one. I might have the matte on everything else, but then, and this might be controversial, and I might be losing the plot. And then what I would do is I would add the gloss black panels on top of the all black. So you've got the gloss on the
matte black.
On the matte black. I think that will look awesome. And what that will allow you to do is to put some easy custom touches on paintwork, etc. I think that would look stunning. But that's just my opinion. I haven't really thought a huge amount about where I'd go at the moment, but certainly that's what I'm sort of thinking at the moment. Any thoughts?
Well, obviously the colour that's showing now. I mean, obviously it's the first time I've seen that tonight. So I mean, obviously when we went to More Speed and we saw the Challenger for the first time, and it was, you obviously had it. We had it. It was in black. Was it in matte black? It was, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, it was in gloss black.
It was in gloss black. But then you had the tyres, and you had the red stripe around the wheels in it, and it just. I don't know. Seeing it in the flesh, it was like, yes, it's a striking bike. I haven't had the chance to ride one yet. I was testing the Roadmaster out at the time.
Yeah.
So.
Then finally, the Roadmaster. Now, this is a bike I probably wouldn't buy.
No.
And I'm not trying to insult the bike. It's just that it doesn't fit with my idea of how I want to ride.
Yeah. Because
I don't ever ride with a pillion. This back piece here for me comes a bit cumbersome. But if I had to choose a bike out of this range, I probably would go for the traditional classic looking Roadmaster. Because I think that the classic look on this is far better than the more modern styling.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you start taking bits off it, you're not far off the Chieftain anyway, are you?
Yeah, so you know, this top box easily removes.
Yeah. So I mean, as in the style of the bike, the actual way it looks, you're not far off. You're not far off the Chieftains in regards to the look and style. So I don't know. It's just it's one of those. This is how I feel. I think it's just an unnecessary range within Indian. And I mean, that Elite is what we're talking, $9,000 difference roughly from the base model.
Yeah, that's just crazy money.
That's ridiculous money.
Listen, I will say I've seen them in the flesh. I've seen that black and silver, and I've seen another silver variation of it, and it looks stunning.
Yeah,
but 35 or 35,500 stunning. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. It's. I think the verdict is out on that one. And again, it's not a criticism of the bike. I know quite a few people on Roadmasters, and they absolutely love them, swear by them. And
Oh,
Jeff,
yeah,
Jeff
it's a lovely
is one of them. So I think this is probably where my sort of taste on bikes stop. Although, like I say, I have looked at adding that box to make it easier for touring, just because of my videos and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I need to think about that. But that Roadmaster seat is comfortable because I've actually put the Roadmaster seats on my bike.
Right.
And yeah, it really is good. It makes a big difference. Anyway, I think that probably brings us to the end of tonight's show. Let's just have a see what's the final comment.
Just take less clothes. You only need a couple of pairs of underwear and a couple of tops.
Mark, mate, honestly, you need to get with a program here, mate. If you've seen one of my shirts, it takes half a pannier just to put one of my shirts in. So if I'm going away for a week or two, I need a trailer, mate. Actually, when I was on my Portugal trip, I actually took my shirts and I rolled them up tightly and slotted them in the pannier as tightly as I could, and then took the bags that I had as well, rolled them up tightly as well, squeezed it in there, and then when I got out, I had to unpack it and put it all back into the thing, and it was such a pain in the ass. I got to the point, by the time I hit Portugal, I actually started throwing clothing away because it was just becoming. I actually left 3 shirts in the bin just because it just took too much space.
Yeah.
So
I mean, whenever I go away just for a weekend, I overpack when it comes to clothes.
I didn't overpack. I had to wear some shirts more than once.
I'm terrible.
But you see, the thing is that the one pannier I'll have the clothing in. So you've got your toothbrush and blah, blah, all that kind of stuff. And on the other pannier, I'll have all my photographic equipment, video stuff. Yeah. So that's why you just run out of space. So that's why I was talking about. But at the moment, so what I'm looking at is adding a sissy bar. Let me just stop this now. I'm adding a sissy bar to my bike so that I can get one of those luggage bags that fits over the back of the sissy bar. So when you get to the other side, you just pull it off and off you go. And it makes it a lot easier. But yeah,
well, that's what you need. I mean, if you're going off for a long, if you've been in the saddle for 16, 17, 18 hours, you're going to want, when you get to a stop or whatever, you just want to get off the bike, get yourself sorted, get a couple of hours sleep, and then get back on again.
Yeah, I think just looking at Mark's comment, where does the rum go? You probably don't go more than a few miles from the house, mate, because if you take the rum on the trip, you're not going to be going very far. Anyway, I think that brings us to the end of tonight's broadcast. Anything you want to sum up with, to Pete?
No, I'm all good. It's been a good show.
Mark says he's in his boots.
Anyway,
guys, thank you very much for tuning in tonight. So I hope you enjoyed the Indian range. We'll do some specific chats on bikes at a later date. Any thoughts on future topics, just message me. But thank you very much for tuning in. Until next time, make sure you stay safe, and hopefully we'll be able to go for a ride soon. See you soon.
Take care. Bye-bye.